Welcome to the No Sugarcoating Podcast. I am Amber Romaniuk, emotional eating, digestive, and hormone expert. I am also the founder of amberapproved.ca. I support professional women achieve optimal health through mindful eating, self-care, and overcoming self-sabotage with food. This podcast provides the honest truth on what you really need to create body freedom. The No Sugarcoating Podcast provides information on healthy living, lifestyle changes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. Always seek the advice of your healthcare practitioner regarding your health and nutrition program. Hello, everybody. Welcome this week to episode 221 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. This week, I'm going to be talking about and addressing fear. So addressing your fears around committing to a health journey, overcoming the fear of failing, and the willingness to go deeper and do the work. Overcoming the fear of failing, especially pertaining to a health journey, is huge. Pretty much every single person who books a complimentary consultation with me or emails me inquiring about my services always, shares their fears. They're scared, they're worried, the fear of failing, and what if it doesn't work? So I thought today was just a great opportunity to really bring this full circle and create a whole episode about it to support you guys if you're struggling with different fears, considering embarking on a health journey for yourself. So I just want to go through a couple of key announcements and then we'll dive right in. So be sure to listen to the end of the episode if you want to listen to the rest of the announcements. The show notes for today's episode can be found at www.amberapproved.ca/podcast/221. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast app. You can click the link through in the show notes, as well as again, go to whatever app you have on your phone. So I'm excited to announce that for the month of February, I am doing a bit of a self-love coaching sale. So if you feel like your New Year's resolutions are failing you or that you're on the brink of failure, it can be frustrating when you've set really big goals and then the hype goes away because now we're getting into the year and you can feel lost dealing with yourself and your struggles. Let's face it, when we've been dealing with the same self-sabotaging patterns and behaviors for a long time, it can take far more than a few days or a few weeks to break them. So when you continue to try the exact same quick fix methods over and over, like dieting, restriction, rigid meal plans, eating less and burning more calories, but you keep getting the same results, it can be so frustrating and leave you feeling hopeless. You may be thinking, I know what to eat, I know what to do, it's just that I can't seem to do it consistently. What if I told you, though, that it's about so much more than just eating a certain way, or that it's about way more than just your nutrition, your eating habits, your schedule, hormones, digestive bloating, negative self-talk, restriction, poor sleep. There are so many things that can fuel your weight gain, emotional eating habits, and feelings of overwhelm with your health journey. So it's time for a different approach. If you are ready, then make sure that you reach out to break your emotional eating and weight sabotaging patterns for good. Get the support you require to create body freedom and make friends with food for life. You can email me at info@amberapproved.ca with the subject line February coaching sale to secure and book your 30-minute body freedom call and your savings on my 6-month and 1-year coaching programs for the month of February. So I really look forward to connecting with you to talk more about your health goals, fears, worries, struggles, and where you're seeking support. Really think about it. Where do you want to be in a year from now? We're in a new decade. Where do you want to be in 5 years from now, 10 years from now when you look back? Hopefully you'll want to be in a space where you're in a healthy relationship with food and with your body. So again, don't hesitate to reach out. I will put that link in the show notes to reach out. Amber Approved offers private coaching for hormonal imbalances, weight loss and digestive issues, emotional eating, and more. Contact Amber at amberapproved.ca to book your 30-minute complimentary consultation today. So let's dive right into today's topic. So addressing your fears around committing to a health journey. There are many fears I find that, the people that reach out to me are struggling with. And I want to really, address this because fear can go deep. Fear can freeze you, really make you feel stuck, like you can't move forward. And it's like, you may feel like there's this part of you that's like, oh, I really want to, build a healthy relationship with food. And I really want to, build my energy and I don't want to diet anymore. And I don't want to be a slave to the scale. but I'm so scared to do anything but diet and be a slave to the scale and keep failing and keep struggling. Like, it just becomes so familiar to stay in the same vicious cycle and stay stuck. So to think of having your optimal health and happiness and food freedom and body freedom and really learn how to love yourself and feel worthy, it can be scary as heck to think about having a new identity and what that would look like and feel like for you. So I really am excited to dive in. So the first fear that I want to address is the fear of change, right? So how is going on this journey going to change me? How is it going to change my world, right? Like, I'm going to have to make changes. That's scary. What if these changes, have a negative impact on some aspect of my life? Well, first of all, often any of the changes that are made on a health journey where we're taking a different approach and we're not doing anything extreme or restrictive always have a positive impact and positive change on your life. Usually negative things don't happen. It's usually only positive changes. But what happens is when we are used to, again, focusing on diets, focusing on quick fixes, meal plans, exercise, and just like the eat less, exercise more mentality. And now all of a sudden we're, unlearning diet mentality and unlearning to focus on these quick fix things. And we're really learning how to take care of ourselves. It can be scary to think about that change from quick fix to actually taking time to slowly make changes, to take one step at a time versus feeling like you have to do everything all at once. But I think that hopefully is something that is reassuring and makes you feel a bit more at peace about going on a health journey, because it isn't about, having this massive wave of change and recommendations and information piled you all on the same day, and then that you have to make all the changes in a week. I don't believe in that. And that's a great way to set you up for failure and just keep you in the vicious cycle and stay stuck. I really instead believe that it is about making small changes. And an example of that could be, a lot of my clients struggle with hydration when we first start working together, and that's a big emotional eating trigger. It also, impacts low energy. So I'll often start working with them on, let's just start slowly increasing your water. So if you're only drinking 1 or 2 glasses a day right now, let's work toward 3 or 4. And then in a few weeks, or a couple weeks, we'll see how that's going and we'll slowly increase it again, rather than we'll know tomorrow you have to be drinking 12 glasses of water a day. I don't feel like, those are necessarily supportive or uplifting recommendations to make. And my goal is to set my clients up for success. Or perhaps it's that, you're eating quite a bit of processed foods right now and you're worried that you're going to have to all of a sudden cut out everything that you love and feel restricted, and that will fuel emotional eating for you. I think if anyone knows about, how to support a healthy relationship with food, I definitely do, because you cannot restrict someone. You cannot cut out a bunch of foods at once and have someone feel restricted, because at some point you'll rebel and then you'll go back to all those foods, or you'll binge or emotionally eat. So it's so important that we actually just start to make small changes. Like, let's add more good foods in. Let's add in spices that'll support your digestion. Let's add in energy boosting foods. Let's add in teas that are going to support better sleep and support your nervous system, right? And if you're skipping breakfast, like, let's slowly start integrating breakfast, and let's add in variety and make it easy and give you simple, delicious things that you can make. So it's, again, let's just start with 1 or 2 small changes and do that for a while, because the beauty of the change and taking time to make the change is it sets you up for success. You achieve these small goals, or I get people to set intentions, and this is whether or not you decide to work with me, but just take this on in your own world. And if you're trying to work on drinking more water or eating breakfast or adding more nourishing foods into your day, like, if you take your time and you focus on taking one step at a time, you're far more likely to achieve that small goal or intention, which helps you to build your confidence and your self-worth and your belief in yourself that you can do this. And then you're like, okay, I did that. That's just more proof that I can move forward and I can do this next step, right? And there may be some things we can do on our own, and then there may be at some point you seek some extra support. But whether or not you get help with this, it's a matter of slow changes. Because of course, the other thing that happens is when we just make slow changes, this big, strong wall of fear, it gets smaller, and it's like, oh, maybe it's a little bit scary to think about making that change, but I can do it. I'm going to try it and see what happens. And as you start to feel better, again, you build the confidence, and then you see that change doesn't have to be scary or extreme or have a negative impact on your world. But making these changes will change your world, especially when it comes to, making adjustments in your schedule, and then you have more time for yourself. You sleep better, you're more rested, you have more energy. Like, those are all such positive, empowering things. You're in a better mood, you feel better in your body, you have better body confidence, your relationships improve. And or if you have relationships that you feel are, having a detriment or a negative impact on your relationship with yourself and your health, you actually learn how to set healthy boundaries, and you learn how to have empowering conversations with other people that then can help support you on your journey with your health. And as you set boundaries and you have these empowering conversations, you're supporting yourself and your health and your mental health. And that, again, is such positive change. And as you see yourself being able to do that one step at a time, bit by bit, you really start to feel unstoppable, like you can do it and that you can achieve your goals and that change is actually okay. It's not a bad thing. So change and addressing the fear of change and what change is going to do to your world is so important, because the change that I witness for my clients is they get better jobs. They make more money. They have more success if they own a business. They have healthier relationships with their children, their spouse, their friends, their family members. Obviously, they have a very much healthier relationship with themselves and their body image. They're, throwing the scale out the window. They don't have to diet anymore. There's a freedom there, and they truly feel like they can live their lives with pure happiness and joy. And then they have the tools to navigate stress or anything else that may show up, but they're free and they're happy. And I think there's a lightness about that, this emotional lightness and this ease that comes along with thinking about that. So the change that happens is only supportive of you and your life, which I think our lives are so precious. Life is fragile. And I think it's so important that we break through these fears so that we don't regret not taking the actions, not making the changes, because I think that is one of the biggest burdens we could potentially have to deal with down the road in our lives is regret. So let's not regret. Another big fear is the fear of doing the work. So actually putting in the effort into something different than a quick fix or just another diet. A lot of people fear doing the work because they think it's going to be really hard. I think that a lot of people also think they're going to have to sit in all their old traumas and the negative things that happened to them. They're going to have to sit in it for a really long time and suffer through it again. I don't believe in that. I don't believe we should have to sit in our past and wallow and suffer in it. I think it's important to acknowledge, different things from your past that may be fueling your diet mentality or your poor body image or your relationship with food, but we can talk about, well, what do we want to do to change it, or what can we do? What kind of self-care can I help you or assist you in that's going to help you, really release some worry or sadness or negative emotions that you have. And, how can we use the tools and the coaching to help you have what you need to cope in a healthy way, right? I think it's so important to know you don't have to sit in all the negativity, and that having the proper tools and support can help you catch yourself, what triggers you to go into a really negative mood, and then what tool or what means of support do I want to use to help me shift out of that negative mindset or the ego mindset and get back into my power, back into a positive mindset. And tools could be as simple as a journal entry of you writing down, today I'm grateful for these 5 things, or today I had a really crappy day and this is why. And even just writing it down on paper, it can really help you to understand, what triggered you to go into that negative mood, what happened, are there any actions you want to take? If you emotionally ate, what did you learn from the emotional eating trigger? And then what can you do differently next time? So, when we step into this work, it becomes fun. We learn about ourselves. You learn how to listen to your body. Clients get to the point where they're so in tune, and I've gotten to the point where I'm so in tune that I can tell, like, if I have a hormone that's off, or I can tell what, if something's interrupting my sleep, or if for some reason I feel like I, need more carbs or fat. It's like, I know because I've spent the time to do the work to learn how to listen to my body, which allows me to then know what to give my body, which means I don't any longer need to feel like I need to keep looking for a certain diet to fix my health or to fix my emotional eating issues, because the diet or the quick fix is never going to do that. The diet or quick fix is usually going to just keep you suffering, and then your health symptoms usually get worse, the emotional eating gets worse, you gain more weight, and then the work pile loads up. And it's totally still possible to address it, manage it, and move forward. But just know the longer you stay stuck in a vicious cycle of quick fix things that aren't working for you, and the worse you feel, and the more your body's yelling at you with symptoms, well, it's going to take more time to address that. So, that's why addressing the fear is so important. So you can get that out of the way, take the action steps, do the work, and start to feel better, because people start to gain relief from their symptoms and feel better in a matter of a few days or a week even. And it's like the only thing standing in the way of you in that is fear. So if we can get that out of the way, you're golden. Work can also just be things like, taking a bit of time to making sure that you're hydrated, stopping multitasking and eating and shutting off your technology and just focusing on chewing your food. Like, this aids in better digestion, and then you're less bloated. So any action step that you take, there should be multiple benefits from it. And using the example of digestion, so a lot of the women that come to me are bloated all the time and have really sensitive digestion. And as they start to set the healthy boundary to stop multitasking while they eat their lunch, and they just stop and focus on eating their lunch and chewing properly, putting their fork down between bites, they notice a significant positive difference in their digestion. They have less bloating, their bowels improve, and also they notice they have less cravings, and they're less likely to be triggered to emotionally eat later in the day. To see that significant in a change in a week or a couple of weeks or a couple of months, if, for some of these women have been struggling with this for years and decades, that is life changing. And it lets them know, and hopefully it lets you know, that, again, taking the time to commit to doing this work only has positive outcomes. It really does. So I think it's important for us to actually understand that quick fixes aren't going to help us get to the roots of what we're struggling with, and to actually ditch the quick fixes, because it's staying in the quick fix work, and it's letting fear make the decisions for us that is fueling the struggle. It's fueling the symptoms. It's fueling our low self-worth and the negative self-talk. So if we actually are open to just like step by step doing the work, it's a life's work. It's your health journey. Like, this is sacred. This is exciting. It's you. It's your body. It's your mind. It's your life. Like, it's so precious. It's exciting. It's empowering. It takes courage, but it's truly, as I always say, the best work you could ever do for yourself. So, it's safe to do the work, and it's safe to see it as a gift to give yourself. I think that another fear is definitely getting uncomfortable, because often we're sitting in a comfort zone, even if we're suffering. So an example would be, say you are used to dieting and you're just on like every diet train, like paleo and Whole30 and keto and vegan or vegetarian or like low carb or whatever it is. And you're just like, oh man, I just need to find the right diet, and then I'll lose the weight, and then I can be happy, right? And so there's this vicious cycle that happens where you get on the diet, maybe you do good for a few days, a few weeks, a couple of months, you start to see some results, and then you start to feel restricted or deprived, or you have a lot of stress happen and you get overwhelmed, and then you have a really bad day and you go to the store, or you find an old box of Christmas chocolates and you end up eating 5 of them or the whole box, or you eat a bag of chips or whatever it is, and that frustrates you, and then you get angry and you're like, I lost control again. I wasn't able to be perfect on this diet, so screw this diet. I need to find the next diet because obviously this one doesn't work for me, and I don't want to gain weight, or maybe I've already gained a bit of weight, so I need to hop on the next diet. And then you have this frustration, and you're hard on yourself, and you think, I need more willpower. And this, for a lot of people, is a comfort zone, believe it or not, because whilst you are fighting with yourself and with food and your body, it's what you know. It's familiar. It's not pretty, but it is a comfort zone. And for a lot of people, if they think about actually not dieting, not having such deep control with their calories, their exercise, needing to weigh themselves every day, to have a very deep need to control, their weight, to think about not having that can be very uncomfortable, because it's like, well, I don't want to lose control with my body. I don't want to lose control with my weight. I don't want to lose control with food. But what is so fascinating is the big motivator, and the reason why you're restricting and dieting and quick fixing and, asphyxiating and obsessing over the scale, is because you are so scared of losing control with your weight and your body, because you don't feel good enough, and your weight or your worth is so tied up in the weight. So fear is already leading you anyway, and it's pushing you to this place where you're probably miserable and you're not very happy with yourself, and or you're noticing you can't fully embrace your life and the different aspects of it because you continue to get down on yourself about your weight and be hard on yourself because you can't, be good on your diet. So, but the beauty of it is in the beginning, whilst it may seem uncomfortable to undo your old diet mentalities, to not weigh in every day, to undo old diet conditioning, and to focus more on building a healthy relationship with food, identifying your emotional eating triggers, learning how to eat mindfully, learning to understand how to listen to your body and see, when you feel full and to stop eating, and knowing how much food is enough food for you to eat. Like, I still think it's important that we, make sure you're eating enough fat, protein, and carbs, but that you're not overdoing it. But I don't think we need to diet or count or rigidly meal plan to have mindfulness with food. So when people start to step away from those old quick fix mentalities and they start to step out of their comfort zone into this new space where they can be empowered with food and they can, have freedom from all what feels like this old jail, the food jail and the wastegate jail, they start to feel lighter. They feel clarity. They're now building awareness, that of what triggers them to go to food. And as you start to really understand what's fueling the emotional eating, the overeating, the want to go to the dieting, well, then you can actually address those triggers and address the root causes, whether it's your schedule or it's, coworkers or it's your own negative thoughts of yourself. Well, then, you can address each of those pieces. And as you do, you build confidence. You get excited because you feel better and you see that there's actually nothing wrong with you. It's not that you don't have willpower. It's that there's all these little pieces that are fueling this cycle. And as you identify and get each piece out of the way, it's like, wow, I totally believe that I can have a healthy relationship with food. My energy is improving. My digestion's getting better. I don't have any more cravings. It is so amazing when I get on a call with a client and they've had debilitating cravings for months or years and they go, I don't have any cravings. I don't have any cravings. This is the first time I think in my life that I haven't had cravings. I love those moments. I wish I could just record a montage of every client that I've had and the reaction when they realize they haven't had a craving. It is a beautiful moment. So cravings go away. The urge to emotionally eat goes away, and you start to realize you can use your self-care and your tools to actually cope with your emotions, to do the work. That it's safe to feel the change and it's okay to feel uncomfortable because the discomfort passes, and then you start to feel more comfortable being mindful with food. You start to feel comfortable actually addressing your triggers. And then what starts to feel uncomfortable is the weight obsession, the negative self-talk, the dieting. And it's I don't want to go back over there. That now feels uncomfortable. So a switch flips. And another thing that happens, when we start to allow ourselves to, get a bit uncomfortable, and it's not you have to get severely uncomfortable and stay uncomfortable. That's not what I mean. It's again, one little step out of your comfort zone. And then if you have to step back in, so be it. Then let's step a little further out and just take things one small step at a time. Another fear that people have is the fear of taking responsibility. So owning it. So one thing that I really found when I was struggling with my food addiction is when I was triggered to emotionally eat, I would blame everything but myself. Oh, it was that person's fault at work that I'm upset and eating. Oh, it's this scenario's fault. Oh, it's because I'm not the weight I want to be. And I really didn't realize that I wasn't taking responsibility for my stressors, my problems, my issues. And I'd often put it on other people and I didn't even know. So we have to take responsibility for our stuff. We have to take responsibility for our emotions, for our overbooked schedules, for our negative mindsets, for our self-sabotaging behaviors. But there's so much good in that because when you learn how to take responsibility and go, this is my stuff, I'm actually want to, slowly address it, you build your power. Here's that C word again. You build your confidence. You start to get excited to honor your body. You start to get excited about setting boundaries and honoring and standing up for what you need. And the more in your power you feel and the happier you feel, the less likely you feel to punish yourself with food or go into self-sabotaging behavior. So again, there's so much empowerment possible here and positivity possible here when we do take responsibility. Another fear is the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen? Who would I be without food, right? Because you are stepping into this new identity. What's this new identity? Who am I without food? Or who am I without focusing on diets, right? Tomorrow is unknown. We truly do not know what tomorrow is going to bring. And you're more safe with aligning with the unknown rather than keeping yourself stuck feeling miserable about yourself, your health, and your body and what isn't working. Because as you focus on what isn't working and that negativity, that grows. But in the unknown, anything is possible. Everything is possible. But in fear, you will create more of what you don't want and what you are very familiar with, which is a lot of suffering, overwhelm, feeling drained and frustrated. So I think it's so important to open up to the unknown because we talk about that. How do you want to feel? And I'll just ask you now, this is totally whether or not you decide to reach out. I know I'm using a lot of client examples, but that's just because it's so second nature for me to share examples for you because it's amazing to see the miracles happening every day. But just for you sitting at home, grab a piece of paper, who could you be and how would it feel if you could just sit down and eat your food mindfully and not lose control with it? How would it feel for you if you weren't a slave to your scale? How would it feel for you to feel free and happy with your body and feel grateful for your body, right? Who could you be if you had more confidence? What promotion could you take at work? Would you own a business? Could you make more money? Would you attract that amazing, loving relationship? Anything is possible when we step into the unknown. I think it's so important that we acknowledge the fear, but that we stop letting it stand in the way of us getting into and stepping into owning our greatness. Fear of not losing the weight or fear of losing the weight and being seen. A lot of women, again, are just so concerned with the weight loss. And what if I don't lose the weight? What if I don't lose it fast enough? And so the goal here is to actually take the focus off of the weight and actually focus on getting healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally. Because I often find when we shift the focus, the protection comes off easily as your body feels safe enough. But if you keep obsessing and focusing and forcing the weight loss, usually the body will resist and hang on to it because you're putting yourself into such a heightened state of stress. So the more you can learn how to listen to your body and relieve yourself of your symptoms, so bloating, low energy, inflammation, pain, skin issues, food sensitivities, all that kind of stuff, the better you feel, you go, I'm healthy. I don't necessarily need to lose a bunch of weight to be healthy. Yes, maybe, you have some protection to release, but you realize it's about so much more than just a diet. And then, of course, the opposite, which is fear of losing the weight and being seen, because a lot of people don't realize they're hanging on to weight because they got hurt or something happened and they don't want the attention. So the weight actually becomes the safety blanket. So it's also important that we address that and understand, are you hanging on to the weight because you have a fear of being hurt again, or you have a fear of being seen, or you have a fear of getting attention or the wrong attention? And what if you could release those fears of being seen and have the attention and could release the protection just for yourself and for your own health and well-being, right? But to release the fear of being seen, because it's safe to be seen. And I think that, when we do let go of protection, we can decide, with the way we present ourselves and the kind of people we're interacting with, to have it be a healthy, positive experience. But there is some, positive work to be done around that as well. There's also a fear around eating more and gaining weight. So some people fear that eating more good food is going to make them gain weight. That has never happened. Often I find what makes people gain the weight are the hormone imbalances, the digestive issues, the inflammation, the poor sleep, the, overbooked schedules, the stress, the emotional eating. So we have to address those things. And as those things are addressed, weight gain usually doesn't happen. And for some reason, if it is happening, well, then we have to dig deeper, do potentially more emotional work or address different physical pieces. But I often find when, people are doing the work and you're making the changes, you will not gain weight. And you also don't eat more because your blood sugar is balanced, you have less cravings, you're eating regularly through the day, and you're nourishing your body. So what's so fascinating is as you actually do this work, whether it be on your own or that you get support, a lot of these fears go away and you realize, wow, I never even had to worry about that. That actually never came to fruition. It never happened. And now that the opposite is happening again, you're building that confidence. Another big fear is, fear of you're going to waste money or the fear of the financial investment. And usually what is below this financially investing in yourself is not feeling worthy of making the changes, or that you don't feel worthy of that you're worth investing in financially, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Maybe it all sounds amazing and you really want it, but that you can't ever imagine achieving these changes for yourself. Can you relate to that? And again, what is underneath that is, this kind of thought or concept of I can't imagine giving myself the permission to be thriving, happy, and free. Part of that is because we are so conditioned in society that struggle needs to be a part of our reality. It's like, if I'm not struggling, something must be wrong, right? It's like, if this could be easy, well, it's foreign to think about things being easy and just being able to thrive and have things flow. A lot of people have very, oh, well, you got to work for it and, nothing comes easy, and like all these limiting or disempowering mindsets. And of course, if that's the headspace we're in, it's very difficult to think about, doing this and investing yourself and doing it without a bunch of struggle. And again, it comes from this conditioning and society that we think that things need to be a struggle to be worth it, when it doesn't need to be the case at all. I think sometimes it's so important that we make an investment in ourselves, because it's what we need to actually make the changes. And it usually ends up being a much smaller investment than if you were to get seriously sick or have to take a bunch of medications, or if you wait longer and then all of a sudden you have a condition that, takes your life, or that severely disables you in some way, so that you can't, live your life the way that you want to, and you can't be in your work, and then you're not making the money to pay bills or whatever that is. So I think it's like, if we think about the investment and our worth, they can be very tied together. And of course, I'm going to talk about worth soon. I think some people also fear, dedicating time, right? A lot of people think it's going to be this massive change. It's going to be one big swoop, and you're going to be, tipped upside down, and your world's going to be tipped upside down, and you're going to have to spend like your entire day like food prepping and, doing all this work. And it's like, no, I totally understand that you have a life and different things in it. And that's not what I believe a true health journey should be about, regardless of what you're doing or who you're seeing. I think it's about small changes. It's slow changes. It's having, very close-knit support. It's step-by-step support. It's about slowly uncovering things so that it's doable and manageable for you in your schedule, time-wise, emotion-wise, which is a huge factor, money-wise. So you can take your time and make the changes, feel comfortable doing it, but also, again, feel empowered and confident. And you build trust within yourself that you can do it. So I just can't stress enough that I believe it's about small changes. So if you've been in a program or you've been working with someone and they're expecting you to make really massive changes with your health and well-being in a small period of time, and you're just feeling very pressured, well, potentially that may not be the approach for you. Just food for thought. So now I want to address the fear of failure, because it's so ironic that we fear failing, yet we keep doing the same things over and over that ensure we continue to fail, like the diet, failing on the diet, doing another diet, failing on the diet. If we really truly feared failing, why wouldn't we take a chance setting ourselves up for success, taking a different approach? Like, if you fail so many times now that you've given up on yourself, it feels so disempowering, and there's this feeling of hopelessness. And so that's, again, why I think it's so important to take time to create small wins for yourself. Because if you can shift that dynamic and release that fear of failure, that fear or that losing hope, and you achieve those small goals, or you make those small changes, and you continue to build consistency, you truly build confidence. And that also helps alleviate that fear of failure. Because the struggles that you are dealing with were not created overnight, and it's going to take time to make changes to create body and food freedom. And that is good news, because you don't have to be worried about making the changes really quickly or making really big changes. It's also good news because if fear is something you are struggling with, it's easier to take small steps versus a massive leap that you are afraid to take. Massive leaps can be scary as heck, but if we just take small changes, often we can work through the fear in a more manageable way. And I'll say it again, as you take small steps and make small changes, you feel better and you build self-confidence, and that allows you to take more steps forward. And then you feel empowered and excited to take the next self-care shift, or to, continue to overcome your emotional eating triggers, or to continue to, build your energy levels. And it's this slow and steady process that helps and allows you to make the shifts that feel amazing for you. And these are the shifts that, like I've mentioned, can happen relatively quickly. And as you start to feel better, you think, why didn't I do this sooner? Truly, that's often the response that a lot of people give. I want to share this with you because I think this sentence is so profound. Fear denies you of feeling amazing. It denies you of feeling wonderful in your body and mind as you are now, and working with your body and mind to transform. Fear robs you of this. Fear can rob you of your health. Fear could rob you of a loving relationship or going on that vacation because you don't want to be in a bathing suit. Fear could rob you of having more fun and more social time. Fear could rob you of a promotion at work. Fear could rob you of making more money in your business. Fear could rob you and or you could have a significant impact on your kids and the way your kids grow up and the conditioning that they take on. And yes, you may be afraid. I want to acknowledge that, but I really encourage you to not let it block you from taking the steps to move forward. There is not much of a difference actually between the emotions of fear and excitement. It's just that, do we channel that energy toward excitement and empowerment, or do we stifle it into a little box and call it fear? Excitement, fear. What would you rather? And I have people who sign up for complimentary consultations and email me, right? And say that they're excited and it's so amazing and they're ready to make the changes. And then they cancel or they no-show or they don't move forward. And I have so much compassion for them because usually what's underlying is a ton of fear that's blocking them from actually wanting to move forward. But then what happens is we stop ourselves from doing the very things we want and know we need to do. Even if you feel a fear, you can tell me, you're fearful and you can still show up, right? And that's in any scenario, whether it's in a relationship or at work. Like the more we can speak our truth, even if we're scared, the more empowered we will feel. Because I guarantee you that all the people that you admire and look up to and you follow, from what they've done are afraid, but they work through the fear and they show up. They do not let fear stop them. So many people, especially with social media, we spend time watching their lives and we spend time watching other people be successful, or we see their perception of success. And instead it's like, why don't you take your own time and your own energy and be your own success story? Imagine what it could feel like to go out and say, look at me now. How proud you could be of yourself and how much better you could feel in your body and your mind. And also, what inspiration could you be or are you to others in your circle, in your family, with your partner, your children, your colleagues? Because especially for those of you who do have children, especially daughters watching you, she's learning how to take care of herself, how to, fuel her body, how to love herself, and viewing you and viewing, these things based off what you were doing and not doing. And if your daughter came up to you and said, Mom, I really want to do something, but I'm too afraid to fail, what would you say to her? What if she came up to you and said, I really want to do this, but I don't feel worthy? You'd probably not say, oh, you shouldn't do it because you're scared. You would encourage your daughter or your friend. You would support her. You would tell her not to be afraid and that she can do these amazing things. So why then not give yourself the same encouragement and the same pep talk? That is what courage looks like. Acknowledge the fear and step forward anyway with your courage. And that brings me to this last piece, which is really about worthiness and the willingness to go deeper and do the work. Worthiness is an inside job. It is a decision. No one outside of you or out in the world is going to give you your worthiness, and they will not hand it to you on a platter. You get to decide you're worthy. You get to build the worthiness by doing the inner work. And you can make the decisions and take the action steps that will support the worthiness. But if we are waiting for someone to tell us we are worthy or good enough before we take empowering action steps, we could end up waiting our entire life because no one can fulfill that but us. It does not matter how many compliments you get from someone or how much money you make or what kind of clothes you wear, what kind of car you drive, or how many good things you do for other people. We could still feel fully empty and unworthy inside. So again, we have to decide, I am worthy of this. I'm worthy of a better life. I'm worthy of my health, my body, a healthy relationship with food, and the freedom. I know it can be scary to move forward with something like this. I really want you to know that you're listening to this podcast for a reason, or maybe you're wanting to reach out for a reason. Feel the fear, acknowledge it, and know the process forward can be really supportive and nurturing. Know that whether you just listen to this podcast or you're working with someone else or you want to reach out to me, like I'm unattached from that, but I get so excited when people do connect. I create this, podcast for you though, to help you think about these thoughts and emotions and these behaviors and try on, taking a different approach, because I want you to have the freedom and the happy life. And I want you to find your worthiness. So, we have to work through the fear. And I always support people through that, whether it's here on this podcast or, in private coaching. And everything you want is really on the other side of fear. I'm going to say that again. Everything you want is really on the other side of fear. What would it take for you to put the fear aside and really step into everything you want? I really encourage you to make small changes, whether on your own or with support, so that you can work with the fear, but so that it doesn't stop you from moving forward. And it really is that willingness to go deeper and do the work and break free from the fear. Lastly, fear can also be a great teacher. Usually if we experience fear, there's something we can learn from it if we're open to viewing it in that way. So if you want to, do a bit of journaling, like what has fear taught you? What has this podcast taught you? What do you want to, acknowledge regarding fear and move to the side so you can move forward and you can have everything you want, because it really is on the other side of that. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. Again, the show notes can be found at amberapproved.ca /podcast/221. If you have questions, feedback, or podcast ideas, you can email them to me at info@amberapproved.ca. You can also take the emotional eating quiz at amberapproved.ca, and I'll link up the show notes or link up that in the show notes as well. Make sure to enter the worldwide giveaway for the $150 spa gift credit to your favorite spa wherever you live. Leave a 5-star review and a rating, or you can also share the podcast on your Instagram and make sure you tag my name at Amber Romaniuk, ROMANIUK, and email me at info@amberapproved.ca to let me know the name you left the review or the shout out under, and I will add you in. The winner is announced episode 225. As I always say, there's no better time than the present to take action on your health, so take action now. Reach out if it resonates to take advantage of the coaching sale. I hope I've left you with something today to think about and maybe make some changes with. Have a beautiful day, a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new podcast with you guys next Sunday. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe, review, and rate this podcast and share it with your friends. You can find me at amberapproved.ca and follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Amber Romaniuk. Join me next Sunday for another brand new episode and another step toward body freedom.